Chapter 13. Standing in the great sewers of Paris, some of whose mighty tunnels are 10 feet in diameter, and which, like the giant trunk and branches of some hollow tree, stretch mile after mile under the city streets. He gazes into the black darkness, wondering if he will ever find a way out. But soon his common sense comes to the rescue, and he reasons that the smaller tunnels must merge into the larger until they reach the main sewer. Besides, the current followed must lead to its place of emptying into the river. So, holding the limp form of Marius over his shoulder with one hand, the other gropes its way along the slimy walls into the tunnels of ever-increasing size. When the current seems to cease, he staggers forward, feeling his way until he catches again its onward flow. Thus, hour after hour, he plods his weary way through filth and stench until in the distance he catches the gleam of a white light and knows that this must be the sewer's opening on the river's bank. Hurrying on, he is almost there when his feet suddenly begin to sink in the quicksand where the bottom of the sewer has broken through. Every step the mire deepens, while holding high the still unconscious Marius, he breathes a silent prayer for help as the rolling mass of slime rises to his waist, his breast, his shoulders. At last, in the moment of direst extremity, his foot touches solid ground, only to discover the opening to the river blocked by a heavy door of iron bars, double locked and so strong that even Jean the jackscrew's hand can neither break nor bend them. In weariness, almost amounting to despair, he sits down on a dry ledge close by the barred exit to wait, with the body of Marius in his arms. Suddenly, on the outside between the bars, appears the fear-tortured face of a little wizened old man. A key is thrust into the lock, a bolt shoots back, and through the open door, the frightened man leaps in. Pushing the grating shut with a sharp metallic click, he finds himself face to face with the big man whom he at once recognizes as the one who took Cosette away so many years ago. At the same time, Jean recognizes the intruder as Thénardier, who has meanwhile become a noted criminal eagerly sought by the police. It seems that in the earlier hours of that very day, just after Javert had been set free by his old enemy, Jean outside the barricade, the inspector had come upon this little criminal who months before had escaped from prison. Lured on by his detective instinct, Javert was soon in hot pursuit. From place to place he followed his elusive prey, until in the evening's lengthening shadows, his fleeing quarry led him to the river Seine, where the banks were steep and the path rough, to the place where the sewer discharged its fetid flood. Down this incline dropped the fleeing Thénardier, and with a secret key let himself in through the barred door, as we have already noted. Javert, though close upon his heels, deemed it the part of discretion not to venture into the dark tunnel that had witnessed so many tragedies. So, hiding himself behind a pile of lumber on the bank, he crouched down to wait and watch for the criminal's reappearance. Now Jean and Thénardier, facing each other, gave no sign of mutual recognition, as the man of small stature inquires of his giant companion. "What do you want in here, old man?" "I want to get out." "What will you give me?" "I have no money." "You can't fool me." "What do you do with the money you took off that body?" replies the villain. Judging the other by himself, and seeing what he believes are dagger wounds on the body and Jean's arms, he concludes it to be a case of murder and robbery and demands the loot. Jean suggests, "You can go through our pockets." This he does, but is richer only by a few small coins. During the search, he cuts with a sharp knife a piece from the skirt of the unconscious man's coat, thinking that someday it might be of service for evidence or for blackmail. Then, with a fiendish grin, as he thinks of Javert's lonely watch by the lumber pile, he unlocks the barred gate and helps the big man out with his burden. Once outside, Jean, even in the deepening twilight, finds the steep path leading to the street above, and straightway, with his heavy load, he begins the climb, which brings him to where Javert bars his way, and the long-time foes confront each other once again. "Well, Javert, it looks as though we cannot keep away from each other very long. This young man is badly hurt and will die unless he has medical attention promptly. His father is dead, but his grandfather's house is not far from here. Now, if you will call a carriage and take him there, it may save his life, and then you can take me where you will. This is Javert's easiest way to get his man, for he is quite sure that no two guardsmen on the Paris force could take Jean Valjean against his will. Besides, through many years' acquaintance, he has learned that this man never fails to keep his word. The offer is accepted, and fast-falling night finds the three men together in a carriage, being driven to the grandfather's address, when a strange thing happens to Javert. His long slumbering conscience wakens with a start, as a voice distinctly whispers in his ear, "Javert, what are you going to do with this old man?" "Why, I'll arrest him, of course, and he'll go down to the galley prison to Toulon, where he belongs," was the prompt reply. "What? Send him to that awful place, whose horrors you so well know? The man who saved your life at the barricade today, you're worse than a devil if you do." "Yes," he admits, "he surely saved my life, and I couldn't have the heart to send him into that hell to die. I guess I'll have to give him go as he did me." But another voice breaks in. "If you let him escape, you are a traitor to your trust and vow, for you are an officer of the law, are sworn to do your duty and arrest criminals. As an honest man, you'll have to give up your honored position and quit the service if you let this man escape." While the fight with his conscience still goes on, the carriage stops at the given address, and Jean steps down with Marius in his arms, saying, "I'll be back in a minute, Javert." He climbs the steps to the grandfather's door, transfers the body to the porter's care without a word of explanation, then returns to the street to find Javert and carriage both gone. Javert, having made up his mind that he cannot arrest the man who saved his life for the second time in his career, seeks his office humbled and ashamed at his own failure to do his duty. Seated at his desk, Javert feels assured that he has no business there, since he has betrayed his trust. He is greatly disturbed and strives to escape from his unrest by walking out in the cool night, but finds no relief. Back and forth, in and out, he passes as the hours move on at a snail's pace, bringing neither peace nor the solution of his problems. At last, half crazed by this strange experience, he ends it by leaping into the Seine's black waters. Next day, the papers tell how Inspector Javert, in a fit of temporary insanity, committed suicide by throwing himself into the river.